In this 25th anniversary year of September 11th, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation is honoring decades of memory, service, and sacrifice. Through its Steel Across America tour, the foundation brings an original World Trade Center steel beam to communities across the country as a symbol of sacrifice. To honor the 343 FDNY heroes lost on 9/11, Tunnel to Towers is delivering 343 mortgage-free homes and continuing efforts to end veteran homelessness. Donate $11 monthly and amplify your impact with a car or land donation at T2T.org.
It's tax season, and at LifeLock, we know you're tired of numbers. But here's a big one you need to hear. Billions. That's the amount of money in refunds the IRS has flagged for possible identity fraud. Now here's another big number. 100 million. That's how many data points LifeLock monitors every second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it guaranteed. One last big number. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit lifelock.com/podcast for the threats you can't control. Terms apply.
He's at war with woke.
Joe Concha
thinks liberals are a joke.
Joe Concha.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
Welcome, everybody. And tonight we unfortunately mourn the loss of Chuck Norris, the great Chuck Norris, 86 years old. I saw a video of him a couple of weeks ago. I'm still like, wow, Chuck Norris, he was more of a thing in like the 70s and the 80s, right? Like, how old is he? I thought maybe, he started off really young, and at 70, 72, 73, he's still doing all the intense workouts that he does. 86 years old. Chuck Norris, unfortunately, has been taken from us, as has Mean Joe Green of the great Pittsburgh Steelers and that steel curtain defensive dynasty, the most famous Coke commercial of all time. Honestly, throws the jersey to the kid. Twice in one day. These things always happen in three. So hopefully that will break the string here as far as that bad luck is concerned. But anyway, here's how Chuck Norris became a Republican. And he was a Democrat, like so many in Hollywood, but I think he's doing what so many other sane and sober people are doing when it comes to the insanity of the Democratic Party, pushing people not even to the right, but, staying in the center while they all go far left. Here's Chuck Norris, the late, great Chuck Norris. Cut number 3, go.
Why are you a conservative, sir?
Well, I used to be a Democrat, but unfortunately the Democrats went too far to the left, and the Republicans moved into their position that the Democrats were 40 years ago. And so what the Democrats believed 40 years ago, the Republicans believe today. And so I realized that I had to go to a Republican because the Democrats just got too far off the trail. They just got completely off the trail and lost all reality of what America stood for. And so I realized that Republicans at this point in time are more focused on what is best for America than what the Democrats are.
And there you go. So I only have, I don't know. I'm going to let Vince Vaughn, the great Vince Vaughn, say it, actually, in cut number 19, as far as how we all feel about Chuck Norris and everything he gave to us, not just in entertainment, but just as a great human being. Cut 19.
Thank you, Chuck Norris.
That's right. Thank you, Chuck Norris. That's from the movie Dodgeball, actually, 2004. Long story around that one, but he's a legend, and we will certainly miss him. That is certainly for sure. And where we see the Democratic Party going is to a place where they've always done this, I think, but they really prey on those who are misinformed, uninformed, and let's call it what it is, stupid. So here we have a younger reporter, go down to spring break down in Panama City, Florida. I went there years ago. I'm pretty certain I can answer these questions, relatively. And in cut number 13, this tells us why we're all doomed as a society. Chuck Norris, was smart enough as he got older, went to the right. I hope these folks too here, A, learn basic stuff, and B, understand that when you get into the real world, that the utopia that Democrats offer, like the Zohar Mamdanis of the world, just does not exist. Cut number 13, go.
What year was 9/11?
2012.
Who bombed Pearl Harbor?
Spain.
So how many total senators does that mean we have in the United States?
Oh, 50 states, 3 times 50, 65.
What year did we free the slaves?
I should know this. This is a bad look.
1962.
Who is the commander-in-chief of the military?
Learned about this one in school, I think. It starts with a D. It's like donut or something.
Do you know what amendment freed the slaves?
We'll say the third.
What's the third amendment?
The right to bear arms.
Who played the Super Bowl halftime show?
Bad Bunny.
Who sings the song Espresso?
Oh, Sabrina Carpenter.
What does GRWM stand for on TikTok?
Get ready with me.
Who is Taylor Swift engaged to?
Travis Kelce.
I weep for the future. I mean, Pearl Harbor was bombed by Spain. There was like 1,000 bad answers on there to the point where you're like, my God, these aren't elementary school kids. These are kids in college. In college, they got accepted to a university somewhere, and now they're on spring break, and they sounded sober. And I don't even know what to make of that, except that these people can vote just like you can. And when Democrats promise them all the things that Zohran Mamdani has, as far as, hey, you don't want to pay for the bus anymore? You don't want to pay for childcare when you eventually have kids? You want me to freeze rents when you want to rent an apartment in Manhattan? I could do all those things for you. Except that in the real world, that actually does not happen. Meanwhile, they also watch guys like Trevor Noah on stations like, used to be on Comedy Central. He's the guy who was after Jon Stewart, and now he just hosts award shows. Like, that basically seems to be his thing. Like, if there's an award show, there's a 50-50 chance that Trevor Noah will be the host. Here is Noah actually supporting men playing against women in sports. And he makes the most ridiculous argument. Thank goodness on the other side of this is John Schneider from, obviously, Saturday Night Live, and Adam Carolla to question exactly where he's getting this logic from. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing to listen to. Cut number 11, go.
If a skinny ass man is allowed to be a boxer, a man who weighs less than a bag of cement is allowed to be a professional boxer, a man that I can pick up and throw to the other side of the room. He'll beat me in a fight, boxing, but I can lift him. If that person gets accommodated, why can we not accommodate a trans woman?
What kind of logic is that?
I don't
What kind
know.
of logic is that? First of all, if you could pick him up and throw him, you wouldn't be in the ring with him because you guys are a different weight category. What the fuck is that? I don't even understand.
I was trying to break down what he meant. Super funny comedian Trevor Noah.
Yeah, he's saying that, well, if you have a skinny guy and he's in boxing, then why is that different than a woman fighting against men in boxing? And to Schneider's point, it's, well, for starters, they have these things called weight classes in boxing. So you can't be a 140-pound person fighting against Mike Tyson in his prime when he was 220 pounds because there are weight classes for that. And he's saying that, well, if a skinny guy can go in there and, well, you know, if he's allowed to do that, then why can a skinny guy fight a woman? That's not how it works. And you had that Italian boxer during the Olympics who was beaten to a pulp by this man pretending to be a woman, but they happen to be in the same weight class. And we've seen it in volleyball. We've seen it in track. We've seen it in all these sports, field hockey, where women have been seriously injured. And the party that's supposed to be all about women and protecting women doesn't seem to give a crap. But anyway, that's the Trevor Noah argument. And many, many people on the left agree with that. Let's put it this way. If you tell me that men should be in the same locker room as women, guess what? That is something that, if you tell me that you know something about economic policy as well, or foreign policy, I already think you're insane. So why would I listen to you? And that's the way that would work. Anyway, let's talk about people who used to be Republicans, but now are Democrats. And that's Joe Scarborough. So Scarborough, in 2026, Joe Scarborough feels that, you know, this whole voter ID thing is really, really ridiculous. And what the SAVE Act is trying to do is something that I can never support. The problem is that Joe Scarborough now would never, ever agree with, you know, his former self, the same person. We're going to play these back to back. This is cut number 10, then cut number 9. Go.
Republicans, they don't even allow your driver's license to be used as a way to be able to vote for your mayor, for your county commissioners, for your state senators, House members, governors, presidents, doing everything you can do to ensure that your unpopular party can somehow figure out a way to win in the fall. It's not going to work. It's absolutely outrageous.
The Democratic legislature has actually passed a bill out of committee that allows illegal immigrants to get a California's driver's license. That's right. And by giving these criminals the most accepted form of identification in America, the California Democrats buy votes for themselves, and it looks like, to me at least, that political gamemanship is trumping national security.
Wow. The same person said the same exact things, except one is the opposite from the other. And that's when you know that Joe Scarborough is as phony as a $3 bill, because he will say anything to get that next contract from his employer. So in 2003, believe it or not, on MSNBC, they actually had conservatives on there. Yeah, they had Michael Savage on there. True story. I believe Tucker Carlson had a show on MSNBC as well, as did Laura Ingraham had a show on MSNBC. Let's see. Jesse Ventura had a show on MSNBC. And Joe Scarborough, called Scarborough Country, a show that a very, very young me appeared on way back when as well. And Joe was supposed to be, Midwest GOPer, right? The guy who just wants to protect American values and protect, more importantly, our sanctity as far as voting and illegals from doing it. And now, because he's on the current version of MSNBC, which is now MS Now, well, the tune has changed completely. Meanwhile, big changes over at MS Now, if you want to call it that. All they've done basically is take their existing talent, scare quotes, and then move them to different parts of the network and get different shows. But it's the same people, just at different times. It's really remarkable. So Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski, his wife, they'll go from having 4 hours in the morning to 3 hours. Okay. Then they're going to move Stephanie Ruhle from 11 p.m. to 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Then they're going to give Luke Russert, the son of Tim Russert, a show. And then a bunch of stuff's going to happen where we have people being moved from weekends to weekdays and so on, back and forth. In other words, nothing changes there except the time slots for the people that are already there. And the old saying is that when you do something over and over again and expect a different result, that is the definition of insanity. Well, over at that insane asylum, that's exactly what they're trying to do. First, they changed the name from MSNBC because NBC didn't want to be a part of it anymore. So they became MS Now. And now they're just moving people around thinking that that's going to make a difference. The bottom line is that until they have a couple of pro-Trump, don't tell me Republican, all right, because Republican could mean a lot of things, because they have some Republicans on there who are positively anti-Trump, like Michael Steele, the former head of the RNC. He's a Republican. Nicole Wallace, she worked for George W. Bush. She's a Republican. No, they're not. They're anti-Trump. They don't have one pro-Trump voice on there, or even milquetoast pro-Trump voice on there. Like even like halfway say something once in a while nice about him. Pro-Trump voice on there. It is a complete and total echo chamber. Then they have all these analysts on MS Now all saying the same thing, which tends to be boring. And yes, Fox will. And I get some emails about this, and I get texts, and I get whatever. Not text, but direct messages on Twitter. People complain, like, how can you put that Democrat on? That liberal. Yeah, because it's a different viewpoint. It's good to have different perspectives. When you don't have different perspectives, TV can get boring in a hurry. MS Now is Pyongyang. It is the old Politburo, Kremlin, Soviet Union, all the same thoughts all the time. And that's why they get beat, not doubled, not tripled, 6 times the audience in the case of the State of the Union between Fox and MS Now. So you're going to hear about all these changes. It don't matter until you change the culture. And at least CBS News is attempting to do that, as CBS News Radio looks like it's going by the wayside because, quite frankly, CBS News Radio hasn't been a thing since Edward R. Murrow way back in the day. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. This is Concha at Night. Back with so much more in just a moment.
Where liberalism is a no-go. The Joe Concha Show, weekday edition. Sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation.
America's darkest day of September 11th, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation has helped America's heroes ever since. Heroes like United States Army Sergeant William Bernard McKenna, who enlisted after 9/11 and served 2 tours in Iraq. Exposed to burn pits, McKenna later died from T-cell lymphoma, leaving his wife Dina and daughters Caitlin and Sabrina. Tunnel to Towers honored Sergeant McKenna by paying off the family's mortgage in honor of his sacrifices. Donate $11 a month and amplify your impact with a car or land donation. Go to T2T.org today.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
Welcome back, everyone. Well, what can I say? Except it's Tallarico time. We need some sort of like music to go along with this. But Tallarico, of course, is James Tallarico. He is running for the Senate in the Lone Star State of Texas. And this guy is being painted as a moderate, as a young voice who will be the next Beto O'Rourke, which is not good when Beto O'Rourke ran for a Senate seat and lost. Ran for the presidency and lost. Yeah, you're thinking a big L on your forehead right now? Loser. But nevertheless, Tallarico, well, he's different. Yeah, he looks like Howdy Doody, but at the same time, he's going to be able to connect with young people because he's down the middle and he could connect with all sides and he could bring in Trump Republicans, the ones that allowed Donald Trump to win that state by 13 points in the 2024 election. Yet this guy actually said, and it truly is amazing, every day we find a new clip of him saying things that tell me that there is no way that he's going to even come close to winning a Senate seat in the state of Texas. Because here he's saying that, you know what, when I was a teacher, the illegals that I taught, the people that came across the country, across the border illegally into this country, they were actually the most patriotic of anybody in the class. And he said it out loud because we have the tape. Got number 18, go.
You know this, Tim. Before I was a politician, I was a public school teacher in San Antonio, Texas, on the west side of the city. And I taught a lot of undocumented students. Oh. And those students tended to be my most patriotic students. Yeah. They understood something about this country that a lot of us who are native born forget, that this is supposed to be the land of opportunity.
Yeah, you heard it. That those who came here illegally are the most patriotic and know things about this country that we that were born here actually don't know. Oh, they could cite the Constitution? Tell us all about the Declaration of Independence? What does that mean exactly? They're more patriotic. How? I mean, the media is going to make this the next shiny object, I swear. But thankfully for X and for shows like this, social media in general, the Paul Reveres are going to call this guy out and play the clips over and over again. That's certainly for sure. Anyway, only about a minute left here before we go to break, so let's make sure that we play this clip as well. Tallarico defending his whole God is binary comment, and he's not backing off from this one either. Good luck in Texas. Cut number 17, go.
First, how big is God's sausage, would you say? What? We know God is a man, and so I'm just wondering, like, how healthy his hog is.
Oh.
So, I know this is rapid fire, but let me just, because...
Two-word answer, please.
Yes or no. Listen, I know that I was being provocative with that comment. I made it on the floor of the House when the extremists in the Texas legislature were trying to pick on kids who were different. And
different trans.
While it's maybe provocative politically, I don't think it's controversial theologically. Most Christians believe that God is beyond gender.
Good luck. Yep, that's a campaign ad right there. There are like 27 of them at this point. There is no way this guy's getting elected in Texas to be a senator from that state. And if that happens, then this country is lost completely and totally. That I do know. This is Joe Concha. This is Concha at Night. God is not binary. Back with more in just a moment.
Okay, caller 1 wins courtside seats to tonight's game.
What? I won floor seats?
You did.
I've been calling for 13 months.
Wait, Chris?
Yes, I finally did it.
What are you going to wear?
Men's Warehouse. They've got today's looks for any occasion, and I need to look like a celebrity.
Don't want to stick out.
Exactly. They've got Chill Flex by Kenneth Cole, Joseph Abboud, and a tailor at every store for the perfect fit.
Congrats. You can stop calling now.
Not a chance.
Get any look for every occasion at Men's Warehouse. Love the way you look.
TaxAct knows filing taxes can be confusing, so we have live experts on hand who can help answer any questions you may have. Questions like, can I claim my SUV as my home office if I answer work emails in my car? If I adopted 12 dogs this year, can I list them as dependents? And, am I doing this right or am I doing this very, very wrong? Our experts have the answers to those questions and many others. TaxAct. Let's get them over with.
Rated T for teen.
Hey everyone, it's the best in the world, CM Punk, back to shake up WWE 2K26. This year, the show never stops. You're running the greatest spectacle on earth with the biggest roster we've ever had. Over 400 superstars and legends from every era. Stack the tables, break the rules, burn it all down. And yeah, my very own showcase, telling my story the way it should have been told. Because when the show never stops, anything is possible. Available March 13th, pre-order now.
It's the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition.
Joe Concha.
Sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
All right, people. So this is why the midterms and eventually the 2028 election will be, I know you've heard this 100 times, I know. It's so cliche, but I think it's really true. Well, 2024 may have been the most important election because then we would have had cackling Kamala Harris and goofy Tim Walz as the number 1 and 2 in the Oval Office. But 2028 is pretty important, too, because what Democrats want, because they really, really have not gotten over that whole shellacking they took in 2024, losing the popular vote in the presidential election, losing every swing state, obviously, the Republicans taking back the Senate and holding the House, a straight flush, as it were, on top of the Supreme Court being 6-3 conservative, or at least 5-4. The point is that people like Jackie Gleason over in Illinois, Fred Flintstone, whatever sort of comparison you want to use here, J.B. Pritzker, says that Democrats, according to Project 2029, get it, they want to restore the rule of law. And what that means is that they will try to jail not just Donald Trump, but everybody in his cabinet. And that's not hyperbole. This isn't talk radio telling you things to, conjure up fear and therefore you'll listen more. I get how the game is played. This is real because this is the soundbite from J.B. Pritzker, Illinois governor who wants to be president. And this is what he says Democrats plan to do after Trump and his cabinet leaves office. And this is some really effed up stuff. Cut number 1, go.
What does a Project 2029 agenda look like for you?
I don't think you can speak of it in shorthand, but I'll just say a couple of things that I think are absolutely necessary. One is we've got to restore the rule of law, and that means holding people accountable who've broken the law. I'm talking about in this administration, when we get a new one, the people in this administration who've broken the law and federal agents who've broken the law need to be held accountable.
And that means criminally prosecuted.
Criminally prosecuted, civilly prosecuted, whatever it is that we can do, right? It may be that you can't criminally prosecute somebody, but that you can go after them civilly.
Oh, well, that's great. So the plan is to go the full Tish James thing, just find a crime, practically invent it, say you're running on it like Tish James did. Remember when she was running for Attorney General of New York, she said that, you elect me and I'll make sure that I prosecute Donald Trump. Didn't even have a crime to work with and actually never did in retrospect. But yeah, that's what they're promising. And that's what they're going to run on. It's not going to be like, hey, we're here to lower your taxes. That's not what they're going to run on. They're not going to run on, we're going to make sure that the border stays closed. Absolutely not. That hurts the long-term plan. They're not going to run on domestic energy and the importance of independence as far as energy is concerned. They're not going to run on a bunch of things that you care about that makes your life better. National security. No. They're going to run on to play to their rabid base. We will jail people in the Trump administration because we couldn't do it to Trump the first time. Give us a do-over and we'll go ahead and do this. And they all will use it under the guise of restoring the rule of law. J.B. Pritzker, the governor of Illinois, where in Chicago, it's anything but the rule of law that is ruling things right now. Not because the cops aren't trying to do their job. God knows they are. But this guy has some real hubris to even talk about this, considering the way that Illinois is run and all the corruption that is happening there. Minnesota bad, California bad, Illinois right there in the conversation. So please, but that's what they're going to run on. And the media will cheer it because, again, it will be done under the guise of, well, this is all about holding people accountable, as he said. Accountable for what exactly? They'll find something. You can indict a ham sandwich. And even if they don't get the ultimate guilty verdicts that they want, they'll get a show for 2 years. And boy, they'll look like they're fighting. And that's all they do. Fighting. Fighting for what? Fighting to save democracy. The same party that hasn't had a primary in the presidential elections since 2012. Even not then, 2008. Because in 2016, Hillary was installed. In 2020, Biden was installed. And in 2024, absolutely, Kamala was installed. So yeah, don't talk to me about saving democracy when Democrats do everything to squash democracy. They want to blow up the filibuster. I know some Republicans now do too, but that is for the right reasons in terms of passing the SAVE Act so that people show ID when they vote and non-citizens don't vote. Okay, I can agree with that. What they want to use it for is to have 2 more states, Puerto Rico and D.C., so we could have 4 more Democratic senators. They want to expand the Supreme Court so it looks like a baseball roster. So you have so many liberals on there that they'll never, ever lose a case that they want again at the Supreme Court level. And then obviously they want to eliminate the Electoral College because the popular vote favors them in terms of blue cities coming out big and other red states and rural areas being squashed by those blue states. That's what they want. And they'll get it if they win. And they will not be stopped this time like they were under Biden when Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema, somebody should write a book about those two someday, who stopped all that from happening. They tried it once. They will try it again. Believe me. And here's what's happening. Meanwhile, Democrats now are shutting down the government because Republicans keep trying to reopen the government over and over again, keep voting for it, and Democrats keep voting against it. And now airports are, as you know, a complete catastrophe. Lines going out the door, around the luggage carousels, and then into the parking lot. Even if you have pre-TSA, which is supposed to get you through the lines faster, it does not matter. And now the problem is that so many TSA people, workers, who can't feed their families. That's not an exaggeration. But you don't try not working for a month when you live paycheck to paycheck, week to week, and see how far that gets you. And these people are forced to resign so they could get another job so they could feed their families. And the problem is that after these people leave, in order to backfill these positions, it takes months to train these people to do the job. I'll let this report tell the story more. This is cut number 2. Go.
I want to take a look at this video I quickly filmed on my phone. There were actually some TSA agents holding boxes of donations of food, household supply. One agent, as they were passing us, said, "We're so grateful to our community for being able to support us in this way during a time where they aren't being paid." We also know from TSA that nearly 400 officers have quit their jobs altogether, and it takes about 4 to 6 months to completely train someone in one of these positions. So it's going to be some time before these airports are fully back up and operational.
We're talking people that show up 3 hours early for a domestic flight, 4 hours early, and still are missing their flights. Places like Houston, Atlanta, LaGuardia in New York. This cannot go on, but Democrats, they see chaos as a ladder. And as long as there's chaos, the party in power, they believe, and the media helping them, will make sure that they get more of the blame, or at least they don't get the blame they should. And that's the game plan. They do not care about you. They don't care about national security. When enough of these workers walk off the job, something can get through. And when a plane blows up or something bad happens in an airport, you're going to know who to blame, and then you're going to know who the media is going to blame. They're going to be two different things. That's certainly for sure. Let's go to Jim Jordan. I think in the end, elections, you could talk about all this policy stuff and numbers, and it kind of gets lost in the air, especially kind of in the ADD culture that we're in. So you basically have to come down to a binary choice as far as choose one or choose the other. Ronald Reagan, 1980. Are you better off than you were 4 years ago against Jimmy Carter? And most people eventually said, no, we're not, and we need a change. Pretty easy question and answer there. You have to have it come down to that sort of thing. Here's Jim Jordan, Congressman, Ohio, talking about what the choice is in the midterms and in 2028, what it's all going to come down to between X and Y. Cut 5, go.
Yeah, and I think that'll be a key issue in this campaign. I think, and I always say not all Democrats are crazy, but the left that controls their party is. And I think so much of this midterm election is going to be they're crazy, we're not. And go tell the voters, if you want to go back to an open border, if you want men and women's sports, if you want to defund the police, if you want to abolish ICE, if you want sanctuary cities, if you want all these crazy policies, vote for the Democrats. If you want common sense, stick with the Republicans. I think that'll be a key element in this midterm election. And we have to just go tell the voters, remind the voters how crazy it was 4 years under Joe Biden and all the things they did, including just last fall, not Joe Biden, but the Democrats shutting the government down for 43 days and now 30-some days while we're in a conflict with Iran, while we know what the Department of National Intelligence just testified to what Iran's trying to do. Lay all that out. They're crazy, we're not, is, I think, going to be an important element. And
I think that's a great bumper sticker, right? Crazy versus common sense, vote Republican. That's it. It should fit on the back of that bumper. They still do bumper stickers? I'm not sure, but social media meme, whatever you need to do. Because, again, you have people like the New York Times and Mara Gay, who goes on MSNBC and talks about how the SAVE Act, again, voter ID and showing that you're an American citizen, things that almost everybody agrees with. She thinks that this is so unpopular with the American people. She's questioning, why do Republicans pursue legislation like this? Talk about living in a bubble and completely being totally and effing out of touch. This is cut number 6. Go.
I mean, it's hard when you think about the list of policies that the Republicans are pursuing. It's hard to find anything that is popular at the moment with the American people. We don't have a history in this country of fraud in which people are voting when they shouldn't be. We do have a history, a very recent history, may I add, of preventing Americans from voting who have every right to show up at the polls. And that's what we should be concerned about. So
sure.
I think we should take this extremely seriously. And at the same time, it's a joke, to your point, Joe, that this is even being debated in the Senate.
Yeah, even being debated. 85% of Americans support the SAVE Act. 73% of Democrats. 76% of Latinos. 79% of independents. Yeah, this is far left. This is far right stuff. This is unpopular with the American people. Why is it even being debated? These people are absolutely delusional. Of course, that was said on MS, whatever it is now. All right, final clip. Let's go to Nancy Pelosi, who, you know, there's a box wine kind of feeling to all this during this particular interview. The voice does not quite sound normal. We'll put it that way. Not saying anything, not implying anything. But here she is talking about how all we have to do is, as Democrats, win the midterms so Hakeem Jeffries can be the House leader, so we could put partisan issues aside and do the work of the American people. Like, I guess, compromise or something. No, seriously. This is cut number 8. Go.
What's your focus now?
My focus is singularly focused. Win the House for the Democrats. We only need 3 to make Hakeem Jeffries the Speaker of the House. I want 30. 4 more.
That's a reporter laughing.
That is what it is. And it isn't. It's so we can take ourselves to a place where issues are not so partisan. That there is respect for the Constitution and the role of Congress. The exquisite beauty of the Constitution was a separation of powers. No monarch. Separation of powers. Article 1, the legislative branch. So we fight to make sure that role of the people. And the House of Representatives, elected every other year. Clearly, with the ear of the people.
No monarchs, she says. The girl who helped, along with Barack Obama, literally push a sitting president aside in Joe Biden so they could run somebody they thought had a better chance without one vote from the public, and especially from the Democratic Party. Again, the hypocrisy is so pure you could snort it. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. This is Concha at Night. We wrap this puppy up in just a moment.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition.
Joe Concha.
Sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
Welcome back, everybody. So, Sunny Hostin, she's a peach, isn't she? Gets paid 7 figures. Imagine that. You sit around a table with 4 other people for an hour, and you get paid that kind of money to give hot takes like this, which include her seemingly defending Iran, or at least obviously criticizing President Trump's decision to go to war with Iran because it's Trump, and whatever he does, reflexively, everybody in media will therefore be against it. Just like, again, I'll say the analogy once, I'll say it again. If Trump issued an executive order banning pineapple on pizza, which 99.9% of you hate, all right, maybe not 99, we'll call it 94%. Democrats would say, you know what? Pineapple on pizza actually is the most awesome thing ever. It's the best. We're against you on this. Well, same thing here, because a majority of something like 90-something% of Republicans support the president's action on Iran, and a majority of Americans in terms of taking out the threat also support this war. But here's Sunny Hostin talking about how, well, this is why we really should paint America as the bad guy, and you're never going to believe the reason why. This is cut number 15. Go.
Because we view as Americans, our lives are different. They matter now. We're fighting the fight so that the fight later is not more extreme. For our children to have a nuclear power with those people who do not value. I think we can also agree that this country is the only country that has ever used a nuclear weapon. This country. I don't want to see that.
Of course, they applaud there. We're the only one to use a nuclear weapon. Oh, what, in the last 15 years? 20, 40, 50, 60, 70, no, 81 years since we used a nuclear weapon against Japan to reduce U.S. casualties and end a war where Japan was never, ever going to surrender. But to now compare the U.S. using a nuclear weapon 81 years ago and then saying that, well, we're the only ones to do it, makes us sound like the bad guy historically. And Iran, they would never do that, right? If you think that religious zealots whose only mission is to destroy anybody who does not agree with their religion, who has chanted death to America for many, many decades and has killed many, many Americans, more than 1,000 in our military. If you don't think that if they had a nuclear weapon, they wouldn't use it against Israel and America and the West, you are out of your mind. But again, we're talking about Sunny Hostin here. Anyway, let's go to Stephen A. Smith. This is funny because he is so shocked to learn that voter ID is banned in the state of California. It's true. You can't even ask them. If you ask somebody for their ID before they want to vote, Gavin Newsom literally says that that's the crime, asking for the ID, not voting without the ID. That happens in a state that's more populous than any other state in the country, which may explain why Democrats want to make this a situation where they nationalize elections where the popular vote only matters, because then you could really run up the score in California if no one's checking ID. Anyway, here's Stephen A. Smith, and this is really amazing, his reaction to all this. Go.
I think the fact that we don't have voter ID in places like California is extremely unusual in democracies across the globe. There's maybe like 2 or 3 democracies in the world that don't have it. This is just kind of like a standard administrative requirement in a well-functioning democracy. So I think we should just have it. We should get this over. We should move on with our lives. It shouldn't be a big controversial issue.
Excuse me for being so ignorant, asking last question. This is definitely my last question. What do you mean you don't have voter ID in California? Could you please elaborate specifically on that for my audience that may not know?
Yeah, California does not have voter ID. You don't need to present it to register. You don't need to present it to vote. As a matter of fact, the state passed a law forbidding voter ID. So cities, counties, if they want voter ID, they're not allowed to under state law.
What? When did that happen?
A couple years ago, because I think it was Orange County. They wanted to have their own requirements, so the state passed a law saying, nope, you're not allowed to. Voter ID is not only not required, it is actively forbidden.
Well, that's what it is there right there. That's why the SAVE Act been proposed. Right there, the state of California. That's what the Republicans going to lean on as an excuse to definitely push forth the SAVE Act. Right there. Right there. I can't believe it. I didn't even know that, sir. I'm embarrassed to admit.
And I can guarantee you, not a lot of people out there know this, because every time Gavin Newsom does an interview, especially a national interview, no one bothers to bring this up. Just like they don't bring up with Mamdani about all of his wife's texts when she was a young adult, as far as saying the most disparaging things about blacks and Jews. If Melania Trump, let's just compare any spouse, ever wrote anything like that, believe me, think of Brett Kavanaugh. The things you say in high school or college, they matter. Those are the rules that Democrats made up. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. This has been Concha at Night. We're back here on WABC Radio at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Monday night and on stations around the country, and at 11 a.m. Eastern Time on Sunday morning as well for the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday Morning Show. Until then, I got 2 words for you. Bye-bye.
In this 25th anniversary year of September 11th, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation continues to honor America's heroes. Heroes like Fire Lieutenant Michael Wells, who was inspired by 9/11 to serve his community. After 14 dedicated years of service, he lost his battle with occupational cancer, leaving behind his wife, Katie, and their 3 children. Tunnel to Towers honored Lieutenant Wells by paying off the family's mortgage in recognition of his sacrifices. Donate $11 monthly and amplify your impact with a car or land donation. Go to T2T.org.